What's up, my brothers? Welcome back to the channel. If it's your first time here, welcome to the Lonnie Spence Show, where I expose the truth about everything. We're going to be talking about the American diet and how the American diet is slowly but surely killing us, why this is, things to avoid, and scientific research that I've done beforehand and presented now to you in a slideshow format. So if you like this kind of content, drop a like on the video and hit that subscribe button. With no further ado, let's expose some of the biggest lies that were not taught in school. Here we have one of the biggest scams ever. It's the food pyramid in 1992, created by the FDA, the Food Drug Administration. And this is supposed to model what we should consume per servings per food group, okay? So you guys need to check this out. They're telling us fats and oils and sweets we should use sparingly, milk, yogurt, and cheese, 2 to 3 servings per day, as well as meat, poultry, fish, dried beans, eggs, and nuts. And then the second most we should consume is vegetables, 3 to 5 servings, and fruits. And then the majority of the food we should consume per day is bread, cereal, rice, and pasta, 6 to 11 servings. This is insane, guys. We're going to break it down. So blood chemistry tells us that eating carbohydrate-rich foods like pasta, porridge, bread, and cereal in greater quantity than meats, as is suggested by the food pyramid, actually heightens the risk of cancer. Why is this? Because cancer is fueled by glucose, the byproduct of carbohydrates. Blood chemistry tells us that pasta, porridge, bread, and cereal are comparatively low in nutrients. Hence, the notion that we should be consuming them in greater quantities than eggs and meats, all of which are abundant in essential nutrients. It's absurd. In other words, what blood chemistry tells us is that the food pyramid is killing us. This is what's so deceptive about this. We'll go back really quick. They say fats, oils, and sweets used sparingly, but bread, cereal, rice, and pasta all break down into sweets or glucose in our bloodstream. That's how they trick us. Furthermore, the food industry is rife with corruption. In the 1960s, the sugar industry funded research that branded fat as the primary catalyst for heart disease. Many years later, we know that sugar is a far greater catalyst for disease than fat. Perhaps the best example of corruption concerning the food pyramid, though, is the Heart Foundation. Just as the road to hell is paved with good intentions, the Heart Foundation was probably founded to create a healthier and happier world. But alas, as funding was required to keep the lights on, it was eventually beholden to big business. In the case of the Heart Foundation, that big business was McDonald's, who donated a hefty $300,000 per year in exchange for a trademarked tick next to its fish burgers, salads, and chicken wraps to denote a supposedly healthy choice. The Heart Foundation is considered as a non-for-profit health promoting charity. We know charities have tax-deductible benefits. The concerns lie in where the money is coming from to fund this charity. In 1992, only a handful of states fell between the 15 to 19% range when it came to obesity. By 1998, years after the pyramid standard had some time to take hold of schools and health departments, 7 states had increased to the greater or equal to 20% range. By 2000, that range included 14 more states. Approximately 32.6 million Americans have type 2 diabetes, and 88 million people suffer from prediabetes. That's about 36.7%, over a third of the population and growing of Americans who suffer as a result of their diet. Diabetes isn't just occurring at random. It is a direct result of following poor nutritional protocols. More than 30% of young people aged 17 to 24 no longer qualify for U.S. military service because of their weight. Diet-related ailments such as cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes soaked up to 54% of the U.S. government's $383.6 billion in healthcare spending, which includes Medicare, Medicaid in 2018. They accounted for about 1/4 of the nation's total $1.5 trillion in healthcare spending in 2018 and were associated with 1,487,411 deaths, more than half of the deaths from all causes. Between 1980 and 2000, the period in which obesity and metabolic diseases began to rocket upwards, the number of calories available for purchase in the US food supply increased 20%, from about 3,200 per person per day to about 4,000. We have now accumulated evidence, particularly in the last 5 years, that people who eat more ultra-processed foods have a higher risk of obesity, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, depression, cancer, renal, and liver diseases. A few years ago, Kevin Hall set out to debunk the theory espoused by a growing number of nutritionalists that Americans were getting fatter and sicker because of the complex industrial and chemical processing that food companies were using to make their products appealing. Hall believed that the explanation had more to do with Americans simply eating too many calories, fats, and sugars. The notion that extra processing might be causing the problem struck him as ridiculous. To prove it, Hall, who runs a research laboratory that studies the regulation of metabolism and body weight at the US National Institutes of Health, ran a controlled experiment that he thought would show beyond a doubt that processing wasn't as important as nutrients. He paid 20 volunteers $5,000 apiece to move into an NIH facility in Bethesda, Maryland for a month. He divided the volunteers into two groups. One ate mainly healthy foods derived from simple ingredients with minimal processing, such as Greek yogurt, beef tender roast, and shrimp scampi with spaghetti. The other group ate Honey Nut Cheerios, Chef Boyardee, beef ravioli, Eggo pancakes, and other processed foods, the kind most overweight people in America eat. Hall and his colleagues did their best to ensure that the only significant difference between the two groups was in how much processed food they consumed. Each group ate diets that were nutritionally identical in every way Hall and his team could think of, containing the same amounts of sugar, salt, fat, fiber, macronutrients, carbohydrates, and calories. Both groups of volunteers were allowed to eat as much as they wanted. After they finished a meal, their leftovers were carried down a couple floors and delivered to a team of nutritionists in a laboratory who precisely weighed and characterized everything left on the plate. Hall, it turns out, had it all wrong. Processing, in fact, made all the difference. The subjects in Hall studies who subsisted on Cheerios and Chef Boyardee gained 1 pound per week on average and consumed in excess of 500 calories a day more than the group with the healthier diet. What's more, when they later switched to a natural diet, they dropped the extra weight. The conclusion: whatever food company chemists are doing to food, it makes people fatter. The results opened up a new avenue of inquiry for Hall and his colleagues. What was it about the ultra-processed food that prompted this overindulgence and weight gain? This question is a matter of intense speculation and debate in the world of nutrition science, a debate that can only be solved with more research. What's clear, however, is that the ultra-processed foods favored by a vast majority of Americans are causing harm. Red meats is not the killer, guys. Carbs and sugar is. Multi-generational studies conducted by Weston A. Price paint a very different picture of red meat, as does blood chemistry. I'll link those in the description box below. You guys can check those out. Very fascinating studies done on the facial dental construction of people who consumed a traditional diet versus people who consumed a processed diet in modern day times. Blood chemistry analysis paints a clear picture of diet. It foregoes the assumptions made by popular epidemiological stories and highlights the chemical imbalances that underscore disease and poor health. Blood chemistry tells us that carbohydrates and sugar are not only linked with disease, but that they are often the cause. Michael Moss devotes a chapter of his 2013 book, Salt, Sugar, Fat, to the exploits of Howard Moskowitz, an industry star who pioneered the use of advanced mathematics and computational science to optimize food products so that they create the most powerful cravings. Over the years, Moskowitz re-engineered a wide array of products, ranging from General Mills breakfast cereals to Prego spaghetti sauce, by testing out modifications in color, smell, packaging, taste, and texture on human guinea pigs, and then feeding that data into sophisticated mathematical models that map out the ingredients to the sensory perceptions these ingredients create, so that I can just dial up the product, Moskowitz explained to Moss. The most important weapon in Big Food's arsenal turns out to be sugar. Moskowitz coined the term, quote unquote, Bliss Point to describe the, quote unquote, perfect amount of the sweetness in a product to maximize consumption. By focusing on the Bliss Point, Moss argues, food companies have changed the American palate in ways that predispose us to overeating the bad stuff, such as potatoes and ice cream, and pushing the good stuff, broccoli and asparagus, to the side. Recent studies, he says, show that 66% of the food in grocery stores now contain added sweeteners. So what's to come out of all of this? In my opinion, unfortunately, this is going to lead to a massive wave of in the next 10 to 15 years. It's also going to lead to more sick dependents. People that are on diabetes need insulin. Who provides insulin? Big Pharma. Who profits off of more sick people and providing more insulin to those sick people? Big Pharma. What else is Big Pharma pushing out? You know what I'm talking about. What are these leading to? What are we starting to see? People aren't being able to get pregnant, blood clots, heart problems. There's going to be a wave, and I don't mean this to scare you guys, I mean this to wake you guys up, of death, unfortunately. But you watching this video, you have an opportunity to share what you know with other people so that the word gets out there. You can also change your diet and implement avoiding a lot of what I talked about. Avoid the highly processed foods. Avoid sugar. Understand that carbs are not your friend. Carbs in moderation are okay, but you want to go the complex carbohydrate route more than the bread, pasta, white rice route. So I present this information with you to share it, to understand, to learn from it, to not look at it as something to be afraid of, but understand that time is urgent and time is of the essence, and you can make a change today by making healthier decisions in your life. This is an improvement channel to help men, to help anyone that's watching this, quite frankly, learn and grow and become a better human being, and healthier, clearer mind, better dating life. All of these things you need to learn as a man moving forward, because times aren't going to get easier, guys. Just putting it out there. It's best if you're reading and you're constantly developing your mind and growing. So I need you guys to be healthy. I need you guys to soak in this information and learn and grow. I love you guys. Be sure to drop a like because YouTube's not going to push this video out so more guys can get this. Hit that subscribe button if you learned something new today. I'll see you guys next time. Have a blessed rest of your day.